Hello, and welcome to Spokane County Spotlight. I'm County Commissioner Al French, and my guests today are Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich and Lisa Jameson, Program Administrator at Spokane Emergency Management. Welcome to Spokane County Spotlight.
Good morning, Al.
Thank you.
We're here today to discuss Alert Spokane, an emergency notification system that's been in operation since 2010 throughout Spokane County. Sheriff Knezovich, could you explain a little bit about how this works?
One of the things I think we need to make sure everybody understands, Al, is this is not 911. We don't want people to be calling into 911 when we have an alert system. This is a system that's based on the database for 911, and we use that to call back into homes of an area that we either want somebody to shelter in place or to evacuate.
Great. Lisa?
Yeah, and the intent behind the project for Alert Spokane was really to communicate to our citizens about an incident that might be occurring in their area, and just to communicate any disaster emergency related information.
So what kind of emergencies would trigger Alert Spokane to send a message?
You know, anything that's man-made or natural, as in windstorms. We had that major windstorm throughout the summer. Those type of things, if we have wildfires are one of the biggest ones because we notify entire areas that there's a fire in the area, and then we step through if we have to start the evacuation process. Law enforcement, we ask people either to shelter in place if we have somebody that's out on the streets that's a danger to the area, or we'll actually ask them to start evacuating if we're looking at shutting the neighborhood down and pulling people out.
Great.
Yeah, and according to our mitigation plan, the top three hazards are winter events, wildfire, and earthquakes. But we also know hazmat is a particular incident, and we just had that recently. So we can communicate with them to shelter in place for their safety, or potentially provide evacuation notices.
So it's a new program to be able to provide notification and help keep our citizens safe. And maybe a good example is kind of the recent event that just happened out on I-90. Could you talk a little bit about that?
The chemical spill that we had out on I-90 was one of the prime examples of a good use of the Alert Spokane. And again, this is a Spokane County effort, and we use that to tell people within that general area that we had a chemical spill. We gave them instructions either to shelter in place, don't go outside, or to start leaving the area. So this was really a good challenge for the hazmat people to use the Alert Spokane system to notify that neighborhood to protect the citizens, because that particular chemical could have been pretty devastating if things had gone wrong. But thank goodness we had the ability to let the citizens know, let them know what was going on, let them know about the road closures on I-90, and we were able to make sure that people, life and safety is the big one now.
Right.
You know, and it's another tool for the incident commander to be able to share that information. It's not to replace the emergency alert system, the EAS system, but yet another tool for them to communicate. And so they create a campaign, and with a half-mile radius in that particular case, and to notify those homes within a geographical area. And so they can isolate that, draw a picture on the map, and then that campaign goes forward to those homes. I believe in that particular case we contacted 47 residents' primary and secondary phone numbers within there. So, but because you can utilize other phone numbers and addresses within when you sign up on the self-registry, if somebody that you care for lives in that geographical area, you could also get that information, not necessarily because you live there, but because a relative that you care for is there.
So if prior to having Alert Spokane, what you would have to do in the case of an emergency like we had out on Interstate 90, we would have first responders having to go out and reach out to all of the homes in the affected area, assuming that they'd be in a position to be able to do that, and that there wasn't a chemical spill or something like that that made it impossible to reach out to those folks. So this is one of those advancements that technology has provided, and we're fully taking advantage of.
It is. It really augments the emergency alert system because we use that during the chemical spill, but this augments that in that we can go call people straight into their homes, And you're correct, Al. Had we not had this, we would have been sending first responders into that area to knock on doors, to use the PA systems to let people know what was going on. And that takes valuable resources off the streets and off the incident, because we were struggling to find enough resources to block all the roadways into the area.
And the other great thing is that the emergency alert system goes to your TV through local media, and Alert Spokane does go to your home. But the wonderful thing about Alert Spokane is that you can self-register your cell phone and get text messages and email. And so it's just another way. A lot of people have cell phones these days, and it's just another way to get information to them if they're not watching TV or they're not sitting at home. So it's just another, again, way for them to be able to get contacted with the information.
Information is critical, especially when you find yourself in confronting a challenging situation, and pushing that information out to the citizens is always a priority. And so this is going to be a great tool to be able to allow us to do that much more effectively than we were before. So Alert Spokane is a really great system, but what are its limitations?
Limitations, Al, is that it is right now mainly a landline base. And many of our citizens in this area are dropping their landlines, going to VoIP or your cell phones. So our challenge is, and the big push that we're going to be having, is to have people self-register their cell phones and their VoIP systems into the 911 system, so we can have access to those numbers, so we can let them know what's going on. Eventually, with next generation 911 and the continuing expansion of apps, we will. There are actually apps that are being developed that you'll be able to put an app on your cell phone, and if there's an alert, the alert will go straight into the app. So our big challenge right now is, this is basically a landline system, and in order for your VoIP and your cell phones to be on the system, we really need you to come out, log on to the website and self-register those numbers that you want, because you can have more than one number. As many numbers you want to log on to the system, we can provide that, but we need you to make sure that your cell phones and your VoIP systems are onto the system.
So for the benefit of some of our viewers that don't know what a VoIP is, could you describe what VoIP is?
VoIP is your computer-based systems, you know,
So like Comcast.
And Voyage.
Okay.
Yep, and those type of systems that come through your computer, because many people it's a lot cheaper to have those type of systems, because long distance is a lot cheaper. They're switching over to anything that comes into their computer system, and it's really an effective and cheap means. However, it's really dependent upon power. That's one of the things that people need to also understand. If there's a situation where you lose your power and you don't have any power backup into your house, if you have a VoIP-based system that comes through your computer, your phone systems are down.
So that's why it's so critical to make sure that your handhelds, your cell phones, are registered as well, so that you've always got some way to be contacted in the event of a disaster and stuff. So most families have multiple cell phones. Are you limited to the number of phones that you can register in the system?
No, as many as phones as you have, we can put those on the system, and we'll put them out. Because remember, this is geographical based. It will go to all the numbers associated with the address in that geographical area.
So how does can you describe for us, what's the process that you go to get registered onto the system?
So there's a webpage, www.alertspokane.org, and the process is pretty simple to register, and you can register the addresses and the phone numbers, and that's it.
Is there a cost?
No cost for the citizens.
So as a citizen in my home, if I've got Comcast, I can register the phone in my house. I can register my cell phone, my wife's cell phone, my kid's cell phone. Everybody can be notified and registered without any cost to the taxpayer, because basically the cost of the system is part of the regional system that we do for emergency communications.
That's correct. The system was originally purchased from Homeland Security grants, and the sustainment is through the 1/10%.
So this Alert Spokane has been in operation since 2010. Approximately how many phones are currently registered in the system?
As far as cell phones, Al, there's only about 5,000 cell phones that are registered in the system, and we have a county of approximately 480,000. So the rest of the people that, if you have a hard line, a landline, you're registered into the system.
Okay. So considering the size of Spokane County, like you said, to approximately 480,000, and we're growing, switching to using the large number of people that are switching to use cell phones, and with the numbers that we have, there are a lot of folks out there that need to be connected to this system so that we can make it, one, more efficient from a notification standpoint, but also so that more of the citizens in the community can be notified in the event of a disaster.
And to share that information with their neighbors that may not have the technology. So just getting the information out, which is why we're so thankful to be here today. So we appreciate you helping us get that message out, and hopefully the citizens will go in and self-register so they can get that information, so we can get that information out to them so they can take action.
Yeah, and it's the system is designed to cover a whole range of potential disasters or threats. It doesn't necessarily have, I mean, for instance, if there's maybe a criminal activity going on in a neighborhood and we know about it and there's a suspect that's out, you can do that notification. I guess similar to what happened in Peaceful Valley about a year or two ago.
Exactly, and the system has been used multiple times for law enforcement purposes when we had situations where we had suspects out in a portion of the community, and we needed people to be, one, aware that that was happening, and two, to give them instructions of what to happen or what to do. One of the things that the system is also used for, and it's not as spoken about as other aspects, it's water boiling. If you have a situation where a community well is thought to maybe be contaminated, or a suspicion that there's been tampering with the water system, we can push that information out and let people know that they need to take more precaution with their water systems.
Yeah. So to reiterate, it's essential that the public self-register their cell phones. We just can't say that enough, so that they can be connected and they can be contacted in the event of an emergency in their neighborhood and stuff. And this is, I think, really important for our seniors that might be living at a home, home alone, and also our children. We've got a lot of children that are home waiting for the parents to return after they've gone home after school, and so they need to be part of this. So this isn't just for adults, this is for the children as well. Everybody needs to be part of this information distribution so that we can protect our citizens.
This system, Al, is really only going to be as good as the amount of people that are actually plugged into it. We can provide the system, but if you haven't taken the time to register your cell phone or your VoIP LAN or your VoIP phone line, then you're not going to be part of the system, and we cannot reach out to you. And that's a life safety issue. That could actually put you and your family in harm's way at one point or another. So you're absolutely right. One of the big reasons that we're here today is to make sure that people get the message that you really, truly need to take the time to get on the website, take the time to register any amount of phones that you have in the house. Your children, many children have phones nowadays, and explain to them what to do if that alert goes off. Because it's nice to have it on the phone, but if you haven't really sat down and talked to your kids about emergency preparedness and what happens if that landline or if that number is called, then they don't know what to do. They don't know what actions to take.
Right.
So this is a learning moment for not just the parents in watching the show. This is a learning moment for the entire family. Please get registered. Make sure your VoIP lines and your cell phones are registered. Register as many as you want. It just goes to the address of the affected area.
Okay, so if you are a caretaker of somebody in a home, maybe either a senior or a disabled or something, they should also be registered in this system. Could you talk a little bit about that?
You can register, if you had somebody in a facility, you could also register that address to your phone number so you could get notified. Or schools have alert systems as well, but if you wanted to register your child's school, so you would get notified. All of those, it doesn't limit you to the addresses either, so you can get those notifications to various family members in the area that you take care of or that you can assist with.
Great, great. So to be clear, Spokane Alert is an emergency notification system and part of the county's emergency management system and operations, which are under the sheriff's authority. So you are ultimately the one that is out there working to make sure that all of us stay safe and protecting the community. So you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Al, a lot of people don't realize that as sheriff, I am the director of the Department of Emergency Management. And this is one of those tools that we had on the drawing boards, and we were able to push through. We got some seed money through Homeland Security monies, but it was really the 1% that the citizens passed by a large margin, 66%. That brought back crime check, allowed us to have the Spokane County Alert Spokane system, and helped rebuild the emergency communication system for the entire county. This system is really one of those issues that helps us protect the citizens of Spokane County.
Right.
And it's part of our comprehensive plan. It's part of our emergency function plans, and we really try to train all our supervisors within the sheriff's office and the police departments and fire departments how and when to operate and activate the Alert Spokane system. So this is a vital part of our reach, our ability to contact our citizens in a time of emergency. And remember, 5,000 cell phones. We have 480,000 people in this area. Many landlines have been dropped in lieu of the cell phone. So we have to stress very hard that if you have a cell phone or a VoIP system, you need to get on the computer, simply go to the website and put in as many phone numbers as you want, and you can link them with as many locations as you need.
So the other thing that's important is when you receive that call, there are a lot of folks that are calling for a variety of different reasons, but when you get that call from Alert Spokane, you need to be able to recognize it, listen to the message, because there are vital instructions talking about not only the nature of the potential threat, but also instructions about what you should do. Whether you need to boil water, whether you need to stay in your home, whether you need to evacuate the area. So you need to make sure that you listen to that whole message so that you get those instructions and follow them very closely. And if you have to write down what the instructions are to make sure that you get it right, you'll be prepared to do that. But the information is only as good as the one receiving it takes advantage of it.
Exactly, and training the children. Making sure that they understand what to do if that does go off, if that alert does go off. We encourage everybody to have 72-hour kits. Be prepared for the disaster.
Right.
But a lot of times I think we fail by not teaching and instructing them that it's great to have the kit. Do you know what to do with it? It's great to have Spokane Alert Spokane County's Alert Spokane, but you really understand and do you really know what to do, and what are you going to do as a family? If you're at work and your child's at home and it's told to evacuate, does your child know where to go?
Right.
Who's going to come and get the child if they're too young? Those are the things that please work out before the alert goes off.
And you were going to share some thoughts.
Just that it's empowering for our citizens to be able to take those preparedness steps. And registering for Alert Spokane is that first step that they can take. And then the second really is what the sheriff just mentioned about just taking action on it. And that's really one of our messages, is to have a plan, be prepared, and get involved. And so those are really things that they can do to empower themselves within the community and help their neighbors. So it starts at home, and the 72-hour kit is just that. It'll just sit there if you don't have a plan on how to implement it.
Well, and you touch on something that is near to me is that, you know, this is one of those programs that really connects neighbors to neighbors. You know, we can't always rely on that everybody is going to get the same amount of information.
Right.
You know, as the sheriff has said a number of times, the percentage of people that are hooked up to the system today is very, very low compared to the total population of the county. And we really need to be one, very aggressive about making sure that as many people as possible get signed up on this program. Again, there is no cost to you for signing up to this program, and you can register as many phones as you want to be able to be part of the system so that you're getting that information. But that doesn't mean that your neighbor is. And so one of those things is making sure that not only you and your household, your loved ones are taken care of, but also making sure that you've got those connections with your neighbor and are able to take care of those folks that live around you. You know, I remember back to Ice Storm 96, and a great example where massive power outages and whole sections of the town were in the dark, and it really brought to light the need for us to rely on each other in those critical situations and stuff. So while it was maybe not as life-threatening, it clearly changed the way we lived for that 2-week period while we were working to try and get all the power back on and stuff. So another great example of how to respond to those situations.
And the winter storms that we had in 2007 and 8 and 9, same thing. Neighbor helping neighbor.
So the Alert Spokane is a software system that was purchased by Spokane County in 2009, thanks to the 0.1% sales tax that was a tax measure approved by the voters.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about, you know, that effort to make sure that we got the funding to put something like this in place?
Be more than happy to, because that funding, what did just bring Spokane County's Alert Spokane into our realm, that funding brought Crime Check back, because if you remember in 2004, the elected officials of that period allowed Crime Check to be disbanded. And the citizens of this county were very, very upset about that. And we worked very hard. We got a public information and actually a campaign to get the 0.1% sales tax passed that brought Crime Check back, brought Alert Spokane into operation, helped us rebuild a crumbling infrastructure as far as emergency communication system. And right now, Spokane County is ahead of the state of Washington when it comes down to its preparedness, its ability to communicate with its first responders and its citizens, all because of that 1/10. And again, Al, that passed by 66%. That tells you just how important this community views public safety issues. And this was a true public safety issue. Crime Check allows us in law enforcement to know where crime is being committed. I really ask people, use Crime Check. If you suspicious vehicle, suspicious person, doesn't have to be a crime. Let's stop crime before it happens. If you see that suspicious vehicle in your neighborhood, call it in, let us know. When we use Alert Spokane to notify you, let's make sure that there's somebody actually on the other end of that line. Because again, if you're not registered, you're not going to know about this emergency.
Right. And public safety is a team sport. I mean, it is that partnership between, you know, agencies like yours and the citizens. And the citizens are the eyes and ears. You know, we've got great volunteer programs like SCOPE and Spokane Cops Show program in the city and stuff. But it really is that interaction and that information, because the folks in the neighborhood, they really know what's going on and what shouldn't be going on. And so they are your eyes and ears and make it possible for you to do a better job. And
we actually have a major effort right now going on in the Neighborhood Watch program to bring emergency management systems into that program itself. And that's going to be very valuable because it will prepare the entire neighborhoods for these type of events.
Terrific. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation about Alert Spokane, and hope our viewers have also got a great deal of information that'll be useful for them. And again, please go to the website and sign up. And so I'd like to say thank you to Sheriff Knezovich and also Lisa Jameson for joining me this morning and being part of this conversation as we work collectively to try and improve the safety of our community. And so thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Spokane County Spotlight.